Testing, testing.
Welcome, everyone. Before the ceremony actually begins, we'll just have a couple of announcements just to do the logistics, and then we'll begin with our acknowledgement of the land. So wonderful to have everyone here. This is a three-stage celebration as we begin with this initial celebration of the arts and the artists and our thanks for Creator and the gifts of life. So this is the first part. Then we shift to a feast downstairs in which we hope all will come and be part of the feast as we celebrate this good work. And I know Kathy and Pauline have worked hard to organize that, so please come and be part of that feasting. And then about 1 o'clock we will begin the reveal, and the artists will help us to understand, begin to understand their creativity and the gift of their artistic work for us here today. So that's the process, and we thank you for being part of being here together. Bruce has a quick announcement as well.
Thank you, Ted. I'm here on behalf of John Jeffries to promote the concert that's going to take place in this hall next Saturday afternoon in support of Canadian Ukraine Foundation's Humanitarian Fund. The ongoing problems that continue to plague the Ukraine, I think, are well known, and the adjustment of many refugees who have come to Canada is difficult as well. So we would encourage you to come. Tickets are available after the service today from Diane Weber, as well as during the week, Monday till Thursday from 9 till 1 o'clock. It's a varied program. There is music like You'll Never Walk Alone, which is Rodgers and Hammerstein. John's particularly looking forward to the Going Home movement from the New World Symphony with a number of instruments involved in it. The Ukraine National Anthem, the chorus is going to sing. Most of us in the choir are going to be involved in that, singing it in Ukraine. And Brassworks, another community group, is going to be involved in the concert. So, and Steve Clark, I see over here, is going to be the MC. So please come out and support this important concert in support of Ukrainian relief. Thanks, Ted.
So we begin with an acknowledgement of the land. We have a video presentation of it.
We gather today grateful for the opportunity to meet on land long inhabited by Indigenous people, whom we celebrate and now join as stewards of its beauty and abundance. Long before it was known as the Orillia area, and today, here is the home of the Anishinaabeg peoples, which include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. We are all treaty people of the Robinson-Huron Treaty, Williams Treaties, and J. Collins Land Purchase. As we learn about the lands we stand on and the people who live here, we recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples shaping and strengthening this community, our province, our country. For settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous people becomes clearly and overtly connected to our collective conscience to fulfill the promise of truth and reconciliation in our shared lands and lives.
So we welcome you into this sacred space. We light this candle in celebration of the gift of life that Creator has offered each one of us. We are thankful for that gift of life. We offer this as a light to light our way as we seek reconciliation, as we seek compassion, caring, love, justice, the heart of our traditions coming together. So too do we light this rainbow candle as a candle of solidarity, a candle that is a candle that calls us all towards inclusion. We acknowledge our differences and yet our togetherness as a species, as all people yearning to appreciate and be with one another. And so too, we light this third candle, our candle of reconciliation, na, sha, da. I've been practicing this so many times. Sha, dadawin. It's close. You can help me, Lorraine. Lorraine and Ernestine offered this word of drawing us close together, and Lorraine, I'm sure, will give us more explanation. But this is the candle that we have lit over the last year since we were together last in inviting this artistic work. And so we have lit this candle each week to be supporting of the artists in their work, and we have named you and offered prayers for your inspiration and work together. So we are so pleased to light this candle today to celebrate the coming of this art into this room. So all of this is an invitation into this sacred space to be together, to celebrate, to give thanks for the gifts. And we have a basket in celebration of all of the gifts that are offered into this room, the gifts of money, the gifts of time and talent. We appreciate it all in doing our work for the common good. Let us be together in this celebration. And now we would invite the pipe ceremony as part of our collective traditions being together.
Redak zagaske indishna kazmako nedodem wasaki bonjaba ojibwe padawarmi minwa bungi Scottish nendao. That means I own a castle in Scotland, by the way. So I just want to say miigwech for you being here this morning. We're going to take some time to give thanks for everything and every which way that the Creator gave us our way of being with this pipe here, the Poagan at this time. Beautiful spirit that's been kindled here, and we talk about this is the third one, and there'll be many more to come as we come to that place where we honor ourselves as b'madzijig, as human beings, people in life. Forget nongum adopted maba poagin zagaskin disna kazmako nedodem. Geget niune cake wabenedo jamenedo ningamenedo. Minwa giwenendo, ed minwa aki kwe, ed minwa kishe manado, ed minwa Jesus, minwa niba Jesus, geget nongo manadako ma king, geget ekete neshnabek, geget mashom sanak nok mesnanak migwesteketka kenegego gamijak, geget migwesteketka kenegego gijiton, geget migwesteketka kenegego gigi kendan, ed non moshnanongum. Bamadzwin, Mino Bamadzwin, Aja Bamadzwin, meanwhile Bazana Bamadzwin and Aptuat. Yeah, we do Krishnanongwam, you get meanwhile Bamadzwin and Aptuat, Mino Bamadzwin. You get Migwich, you get Nongwam, Jagna, Shim Jina. So everything that looks after us, we ask that to be here in the center with us today. From the east, that direction, that knowledge and life comes from. From the south, that direction from which new life, regeneration comes from. From that western direction, the cleansing, and that's the place our ancestors sit. We even say that in this time as we sit in the circle, our ancestors are looking this way. They're saying, Nishke ewede wabenong. Look over there, we're in the east, they're saying. Our great-grandchildren are practicing things that we used to do when we walked on this earth, is what they're saying. Giving us that acknowledgement, what they gave to us a long time ago, we'll be sending into the future from this time, from this very moment, we say. But also in the northern direction, a direction from which healing comes from. That this truth time has bringing healing as much as it might hurt some or others. This time of truth will bring forward that time of reconciliation, where we will all be one people again. We say that in the eyes of our Creator. And my mother used to call him her Gwis, Jesus, to mention him here too in this sacred place where people come to honor that one who brought a way of peace to our world. But also at this time, we think of our ancestors, those ones who gave us everything, from both sides of the ocean and other oceans. We thank them for being here, being us who we are on this earth. But at this time, we're reminded at this time of those four directions. The four directions were placed on the earth after the earth was created. The Creator put a spirit in the east, put a spirit in the south, put a spirit in the west, and put a spirit in the north. As human beings, we come to understand that, what they call that medicine wheel, where we know the four directions, we can walk away from the center. We can walk away from each other. It's what sometimes we think of as the four directions. But it also can bring us together. When we come from the east, we come from the south, we come from the west, and we come from the north, and we meet in the center. You see, if you look at that medicine wheel, if you stare at it long enough, you'll see a little gray dot in the middle. That's a reminder to us as human beings, we're all the same spirit. We gather here at this time to say miigwech for these artists who created these beautiful pieces of work that through them come from the spirit world. Through them come to help us with this reconciliation, this recommendation number 83, I think it was. We say miigwech for all of this, and the people, Gojijing, the ones who gather and dream about these things for this, what Aaron calls a bioregion, a region of living. So we say miigwech for this, and I left this pipe at this time for all of us, that we can be here in this moment, and we can be away from here when we go away, to take a little piece of this in our heart. With this, I want to say miigwech with this poag, and I want to wish us all a good life from here on in. Ajwem nishnang geshemenado, ajwem nishnang geshemenado, ajwem nishnang geshemenado, ajwem nishnang geshemenado. Kanagana, beit miigwech.
Rain, invite the spirit of the waters. Can I just get? That's okay. Sorry.
Anin bojo, ni gan en abit now, jikni kwap, she can't do them. Chinandam kinawab min gognongum. I've been invited to speak for the water today. And just double checking, the east? East, very good, miigwech. So, you know, the grandmothers have been praying for the water since the beginning of time. And our Ojibwe grandmothers have taught us to pray for the water. So that was the teaching that I received as a very young child, especially up in Torrance. I don't know if you know where Torrance is, but I spent many, many summers there with my great-grandparents. And we used to walk down the country road and off to the side into the bush. And there was springs there, beautiful springs. And we have our water buckets. And when we got there, my grandmother would fall to her knees by that water that was coming. And she prayed. And when she prayed, she laughed and cried at the same time. And she was so overjoyed and filled with the Spirit from that water. It was so pure and clean. And that's one of my earliest memories of praying for the water. Since then, I have met grandmothers from many countries around the world who come to New York City to the United Nations in March with the status of women. And they pray for water all over New York City, on the streets, in the gardens. And it's so beautiful that all of the grandmothers around the world praying for that water to be clean for everyone in the world. And as grandmothers, all grandmothers from all around the world, we're starting to do that more and more now. And I encourage each and every one of you grandmothers that are here, and young women as well, because it's the women's responsibility to take care of the water. So I'm really grateful today for this precious water that we have. We're so fortunate. And you know, many of our First Nations don't have clean water. Many of them have to boil their water. Many of that water that they see is so dark and contaminated. And we pray so much for everyone to have clean water. Many years ago, about 20 years ago, in my social work practice over the years, we've always prayed with the water with people that came in our social work practices. And about 20 years ago, we, for the first time, came out as a whole community together. It was on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. We invited people to come because before then, we prayed in secret for the water in our own homes. Whenever we had a drink or had tea, we would give thanks, or as we bathed and washed ourselves. But 20 years ago, we invited the community to come. Nobody talked about praying for the water. We just did it in our own way. But 90 people came out of their homes to come and pray for the water. And after that, we had the youth take the water in a canoe and paddle it out, not too far from the shore at Victoria Park in our community. And a few hours later, one of the men from the water treatment plant phoned and said they tested the water there, as they usually do, but for the first time there was no bacteria in that water. So if you follow Dr. Emoto's work, he passed on a few years ago, but he was here in St. Paul's Center, right here, a few years ago. A scientist from Japan that worked with water crystals and showed us that when you say thank you to the water, or miigwech, it doesn't matter what language it is, it physically changes into good, clean medicine for us to drink. So there's so many precious teachings, and we can all do it. Everyone can do this. And hopefully, one day, everyone will have clean water to drink. So I say, Chimiigwech, Gajamani do, Kidangago, Amijiang, Awan Shishing, Miigwech, Wabanong, Nok Masnonik, Mishum Sanonik, Sagi Gom, the Shopche, Nongom, Limquan Megom Ga, Chimiigwech, Mijiang, Nabe, Miigwech, Ga, Mijiang, Baby, Sug, Yo, Binoji, Sug. Binoji, yeah, miigwech, migo. Chimiigwech, Gajamani do, Nok Masnonik, Mishom Sanonik, Mijiang Nabe, Wawana Jiminok Madsiang, Limquan Migom, Yaginwa, Ashkanigajig, Sagi Gom, Da Shopche. Miigwech, Migom, Nok Masnonik, Mishom Sanonik, Inwa and Madbiag, Wede, Aben Gishmung, Sagi Gom, Da Shopche, Miigwech, Mijang, Yonabe, Minwa Kina, Ninawag, Kwawag, Saganan, Da Shopche, Miigwech, Gaginwa, Giwadnung, Nokmasnonik, Mishom Sanonik, Miigwech, Migo, Mijang Nabe, Sagi Gom, Da Shopche, Miigwech, Gat Sidjig, Opchigo, Gazaganan, Miigwech, Gajamanido, Minwa, Mishkakamikwa. Sagi Gom, Da Shopche, Kina. Chinenda min wawana min of Matsiang, Nongum. Aha, Chimiigwech, Miigwech, Miigwech, Miigwech. So I want to sing the water song, Minjikaning water song, and I'll invite you to come. And I see on the agenda there's a dance for this water song. I've never done one before, but I'd love to do it for the first time. And so I'll invite you to come. Yes. Jimmy Gwatch, Kinawaya. Sagi Gomda Shopche.
Meiers, and can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm the curator of Call to Action 83. It began in 2015 in response to the final summary of the Truth and Reconciliation Act, or report. Marie Sinclair encouraged us all to find one of the calls to action, personalize it, and help change the course of our history here. The first round was composed of an equal number of Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists from Simcoe County. We decided that we would use our gifts to answer the question, what does reconciliation look like and sound like in Simcoe County when we come together? As artists, we take our responsibility seriously to create images to inspire people for good things or not such good things. In this case, it's for good things. We're trying to imagine a new way forward together in harmony. Truth, it says in the introduction to the report, was easy to get, but it was hard to share. Reconciliation is harder because it will take time. It's a real change of social heart. So far, we've had 3 rounds of images that the artists have gone out, sought through sweat lodge and ceremony from the kind spirit, to inspire them with an image that would touch the hearts of all who experience the works and inspire them to acts of personal and social reconciliation. And it's really hard to define what that word means. But these rounds are helping us understand, what does it actually mean? The first round was begun, and it was started with an image of our consciousness coming out of the dark at the crack of dawn, and the eagle witnessing that. So it's sort of us coming from the, gee, I never knew about that. It ends with the challenge of, now that you know all these things, the truth, question is, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to close your eyes, make it go away, and then we start back to zero, and another generation has to do the work? Or do we actually commit our courage and ourselves and our kindness to the work to change the story? The second round happened in 2018. The first round had 16 artists. The second round had 13 artists, again, from both worlds. It began with a new hope, kind of an ephemeral hope of all of matter waiting to congeal to something new. It ended with the request or the challenge to think, to listen, to find truth, seek wisdom over time, and share. The third round was scheduled to begin 2021 in September, and as we all know, that summer, the images in round one were beginning to come true. 7 years before the children were detected, the mass graves in Kamloops, our artists actually tapped into that image. When you get to know the various images of the various rounds, you will see how each one, 7 years ahead of time, was predicted in round one. The Spirit was kind. Round two, it challenges us now to work with our emotions in response to the truth that we have been receiving and figure out what does it mean to listen to each other, to share, and to learn over time through wisdom. This round, well, you'll see. And before we launch into that, Ernestine Baldwin, our elder, who carries the knowledge from the Indigenous way of worldview, and Jeff Monague, our male knowledge keeper, are here to help us today to introduce round three. And Ernestine, would you like to share? Want me to hold this for you, for your mic? Okay. Sorry about her back, okay?
Can I do this way?
Okay, you can take it off and hold your hand. You want to walk around with it? Okay.
Okay, so this is the first one. Go ahead. Honey Bojo, Ernestine Baldwin Dijnakaz, Nwatin Quen Dijnabe Noswin, Niashinik Ming Don Japa, Chipwas of Newa, Seated First Nation, the Bendagus. So the first round of this art project, these are my words I'm going to read. Many Canadians and new Canadians did not know the history of the first peoples of this land. They did not know how colonialism and the residential schools have affected their lives and still continue to affect them to this day. Many people have not read the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission final report and the calls to action to make reconciliation possible. Bringing Indigenous artists and non-Indigenous artists together in the call to action number 83 and the art they produced to tell the story of the truth and reconciliation process is inspiring. Working together brings awareness and understanding. Working together brings reconciliation. And after the second round, I was inspired by the second round of the Call to Action art project. It has left me with so much hope. Hope is what I saw in the art pieces. In the first round of Call to Action, the art pieces showed that the 8 non-Indigenous artists were working toward understanding the intergenerational trauma suffered by the Indigenous people because of colonialism and residential school system. The Indigenous artists, through the stories of their artwork, were able to educate the Indigenous artists, the non-Indigenous artists. In this round of images, I was in awe at how the 8 non-Indigenous artists were able to capture the strength and spirit of the Indigenous peoples. The storytelling of the artists to the public will bring more knowledge and understanding to the truth and reconciliation. Miigwech. So I probably want to say more, but I am not.
Jeff, do you want me to bring the mic to you? Okay.
I'll be gwitch. Gizadodem, Waingan, and Aquaid and Ishnakaz. You're gymnasting Asian cardiac and this, you're it been dogsian. Good and swingo. Get a mom's zip. Janishna beg Gibam Seok. This is our traditional territory. The traditional territory of the Tri-Council. And in the early days, when we had the visitors come to our land, when they said they were only going to be passing through, there was a relationship that began, an understanding of one another that began. And somewhere along the line, that understanding of one another stopped. And so my people suffered colonialism, residential school system, Indian day school system, the Indian Act, and we still do that today. So back a few years ago when the TRC was finished and the report came through and there were 94 calls to action, I sat down with a number of other people, including Mary Lou, and we talked about what could happen with that report. I was worried that it may never be that any of those calls to action would ever be implemented. And I'm going by history. I'm going by promises made before. And understanding that even when we had, in the 1990s, another series of, I guess, questions to Canadians about what should be done with Indigenous people and how we could help Indigenous people across the country in the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples. There were a whole lot of recommendations that were made then, and those books collected dust everywhere. So I thought that this is something that could be happening with the TRC if we weren't careful. And I thought that there should be a grassroots movement. There should be a lot of grassroots movements resulting from the TRC and people coming to understand it and those 94 calls to action. And shouldn't leave it up to the government because it will take them forever, and it has taken them forever, to implement a few of those recommendations. The ones that they managed to do have been good, but most have been window dressing. Truth with your reconciliation. So this process began out of that thinking, and we thought, how could we be involved, and how could we try to spur the grassroots movement to be involved as well? And so this is how this process was born, and how we came to be where we are today. Through that process, and through those years, I've become an elder. So it has done a lot of things in the community. It does a lot here, because here, this is Orillia. This is where my people were. At one time, we had a village down here by Couchiching Beach Park. This is ground zero for everything that took place. Everything that happened to our people, this is it. So it really is important to be here, because things started here. At one time, there were skulls of our ancestors displayed in the windows of shops here. So it was really necessary to start this. And it would be really great if others would do the same thing and take the calls to action that are there in the TRC, and to take any one of those and come up with your own movement to help along these calls to action. And from the spirit of these artists that you'll see here today, they give you their spirit. We'll hope that you are moved to do something. I am very proud to have been here. I'm very proud to have been a part of the process. I'm not an artist, but I do appreciate what comes from that heart and what comes from the heart of the people. And it will be the people that will move this. That's what we'll need. That is all I needed to say, miigwech. Thank you.
There to offer their spirit song.
Hey.
Oh.
Before we do this song, I'd like you to all meet the artist for round 3. Sorry, that wasn't written there. I'm going to call off your name. Could you please stand and remain standing until everybody has been introduced? Give your name, your tax name, your spirit name, and if you're, I guess, settler or indigenous. We're going to start off with the first person, and that is Albert Snake. Thank you. Please stay standing. Jeanette Lucchese.
I'm first generation Italian settler. I live in the Slope Country.
Joanna McEwen.
Hi everybody, my name is Joanna McEwen. I'm half Danish and the other half is also Northern European. My parents came here as immigrants and I'm forever grateful. I'm very grateful to St. Paul's and the organizers. Thank you very much.
Tara Roy. Tara? Xavier Fernandez.
My name is Xavier Fernandez. Came here, my parents came here when I was 11 months old. Working as an artist here ever since.
Wanda Monague. Do you want to keep standing? Peter Adams.
I'm Peter Adams. I'm a non-Indigenous artist from Collingwood, Ontario, and I'm originally from Scotland, came to Canada when I was a young boy.
Paul Whittam is not with us today. Paul Whittam is a young Indigenous man. He is discovering who he is, and he has given us permission to say that he is a child of the 60s Scoops, and it's affected his life greatly, and he's beginning to walk the road to find who he himself is. Jenny Clark. Marianne Manatach. Manatach. John Ulrich.
Hello everybody, my name is John Ulrich. As a youngster I used to introduce myself as being half English, half Welsh, half Scotch, and half Dutch. Because of this process, I think
Magog. Lou Meiers, that's me, curator, a retired educator of German descent. Ancestors showed up on the shores in 1864, someplace down by Philadelphia. Marilyn George. Ryan Osman.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Osman. I'm a newcomer and I'm an indigenous artist. I'm from Glen, Mauritius. I've been here for, I guess, close to 10 years now. I'm just really grateful for being here. This was a really amazing learning experience. And, yeah.
Nancy King. And Christina Luck. Christina Luck is a member of one of the first families that settled on Penetanguishene Road, and she is of Scottish background. She and her husband just recently moved out of Simcoe County, but she's still participating as a Simcoe County artist. They're now living in Ottawa, and she'll be more than happy to help anybody in Ottawa about low-budget, high-yield processes like this. She's a marvelous art maker, and she is our final artist. So today we're here to celebrate the fact that they've done their job, they've kept their commitment, they've sought their images, they've worked with this spirit, and they're ready to share and bring it to the community. So thank you very much. Did I miss someone? Oh, Mercedes! How can I forget Mercedes? Mercedes was the youngest artist in the first round. Mercedes, I'm sorry. That was it. Mercedes, want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Mercedes Sandy, and my spirit name is Little Treasure, and I belong to the community of Coast First Nation. And I've been practicing being an artist since I was a little girl, and I'm really happy to be here and to be part of the third round, and I was also part of the first round as well.
That completes the list now. I can't believe it. And so, Ted. Thank you, artists. You may now sit down. Everybody's imprinted what you look like and sound like. Thank you.
Next slide, Irene. Well, open. Did we miss one before? No, the one before. Right there. What's the one before? Okay.
We would now like to invite Chief Ted Williams to offer words of appreciation for the Call 83 process. Thank you, Ted.
Ani Bojo, Gima Ted Williams, Indigenous Cost, Ram and Jickening Donjaba, Gigo Dodem. My name is Chief Ted Williams, Chippewas of Rama, and I am from the Fish Clan. And I'm here, before I acknowledge the artists, I'd like to acknowledge St. Paul's for the developments that I witnessed here I was here last year, and I walked in, like, where are all the pews? I'd like to know where you got those stored. Anyway, as I walked in, I felt that it's important to acknowledge St. Paul's. My community, Rama, Minjikaning, was a member of the, I think it was a Simcoe Muskoka Presbytery, and so we were a part of that presbytery, and as I walked in, I can recall my grandmother, Mildred Williams, and my grandfather, Sam, who, along with many others, kept the doors open of the Ram United Church. And my grandmother was a church organist for close to 50 years. And I used to go to my grandmother's and grandfather's house frequently, largely because my grandmother always had cookies. But they were very spiritual people, and they had a great influence on me as a young man. And I'd like to acknowledge my ancestors, our ancestors, for the work that they have done in the community. And it's all good work that we all have learned from over the course of time. And it's been tough work. It's been really tough. And but it's been worth it. I'd like to. My daughter is a historian. She went to school here in Orillia, David H., Mount Slaven, Park Street. She went on to university at Carleton, and then the University College of Dublin, and she did 1 year at Cambridge and Oxford. And I'm very proud of her and her accomplishments. And we were having a discussion just a number of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, when she was up from Ottawa, and she's working on a project in the community, and she says to me, Coldwater Reserve. I said, yes, first reserve in the country, before Canada, 1830s. And my daughter says, do people know that we started Coldwater? Do people know that? Well, the Chippewa Tri-Council, we started Coldwater. And the road from Coldwater to Orillia, that was our road. That was our trail. Coldwater Road. We started Coldwater Road. I'd like to acknowledge my good friend, former Gima, Jeff, when he acknowledged Orillia. This is going to be a shock to all you Orillians. But guess who started Orillia? Yes, it was us. And so my daughter, she says, people need to know that. People need to know that. And so I said to her, I will make it my mission to let as many people know of those points. And you're my first audience. I'd like to acknowledge my good friend, the mayor of Orillia, Steve Clark. I remember when he came to Orillia about 30 years ago, we played hockey against each other, and I used to come in on him, and he was a big defenseman. You see how tall he is. I don't know, he's 6'4", 6'5", but it's like trying to get around an orangutan. But he was a great hockey player, but an even better friend, husband, member of the community. And I want to say miigwech for the contributions that you have made to this city the last 8 years and beyond. I'm not here to give a sermon, if that's what you're thinking. But I want to close with acknowledging the call to action number 83. Before I forget, I get asked all the time by non-Indigenous people, so what can I do? What can I do? And I always tell them, I said, read the whole of the Truth and Reconciliation Report. Don't go to summary. Read the whole thing. Then read the summary. Watch the movie Indian Horse, and then around your kitchen table with your family, talk about the 94 calls to action. Read through them. Say, what can you do as a member of your community, working with your family, to implement one of those calls to action? Just one. That's all I'm asking. So think about it, and I hope that you are out there to implement it. I'd like to acknowledge the artists. I'm very proud of all of you. I'm especially proud of the artists from Rama, from Jickling. Imagination, everything evolves from imagination. Imagination is what drives us all. You know, whether it's art. Oh, by the way, I did tell you that I'm an artist. I tell you this story. I was at back room and I said, I am an artist. I carve with a chainsaw. And one of the former members of the congregation asked me one time, and he says, I went to school with him, he says, what are you doing these days, Teddy? This is before I was elected on council. I said, well, I do some speaking, I do some consulting, and I carve with a chainsaw. And he says to me, oh, you're an artist. And I stopped him right there. And I said, no, I'm not. I am an artiste. But everything evolves from imagination. And the work that you've all done during this third phase is important work. And it all tells a story. You know the story. You will have that opportunity to tell that story later on. But keep on imagining and keep on creating. Miigwech, 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 miigwech.
I'd now like to invite Senator Gwen Boniface, who has been instrumental with a number of us in helping to form the Gojijing Roundtable and Truth and Reconciliation Orillia, and the work that a number of us are doing together in this community. Senator?
Thank you, Miigwech Ted, and it's very difficult to follow Chief Williams, as you can imagine. So let me just say how pleased I am to be included in this morning's activities, and I can't wait to see what our artists have done for us. We, as Ted said, we all work together in this community, and Ted and St. Paul's has been so instrumental in the work that is being done and making a big imprint, I think, as we move forward. I've had the great privilege in my 6 years in the Senate and to serve Canadians, but probably one of the most important pieces I've done is our work on the Go-to-Ching Truth and Reconciliation Table. And it started because I sat beside the Honorable Murray Sinclair for almost a year. He was my seatmate, as we call it in the Senate. And as I told him when I sat beside him that I was hoping osmosis was going to work at its very best and I could learn from him, and I certainly did. And our roundtable was a product of many conversations I had with him on how to work together as a community. So I feel very honored that I met Ted and renewed acquaintances with Jeff, met Chief Williams again after many years. Lorraine was so instrumental in helping us bring it all together. So for all of us in Simcoe County, I think we are so blessed by the commitment level we have. And let me say from the heart how thrilled I am that we have artists who give of themselves in this community, who show us their talent, their skill, their commitment, and will, I have no doubt, take us on another journey of understanding through this, their work and their incredible commitment to this process. So I want to say congratulations to them and their work that they've done. And I'm really very, very grateful for the artistic community. I think it makes us richer in Simcoe County, and grateful that you have made the commitment here. And before I close, I also, like Chief Williams, want to acknowledge our Mayor, Steve Clark. We're sad to see you take on your well-deserved next phase, but we're also grateful from the Go-to-Ching Roundtable for your efforts and your incredible support for the work that we've done. So thank you and best of luck to you. And to our artists, I look forward to seeing your pieces unveiled, and again, how grateful we are that the artistic community here in Simcoe County is so talented and is so gifted, and we're so honored to have you all here. Thank you.
I think, Jeff, you're on the list, but do you feel like you've had your say? At lunchtime, we need to acknowledge that this is Jeff's birthday today. So maybe we'll...
I'm Blair Bailey. I'm the choir director and organist pianist here at St. Paul's for St. Paul's United Church congregation since 1984. And we're going to sing, which we're calling a celebration song called Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a philosophy from South Africa that celebrates the human spirit and focuses on people's allegiances and relationships with each other. In a nutshell, it means a person is a person through other people. Desmond Tutu, the late Desmond Tutu, explained, one of the sayings in our country is Ubuntu, the essence of being human. You can't be human all by yourself, and when you have this quality, Ubuntu, you are known for your generosity. We think of ourselves far too frequently as just individuals separated from one another, whereas you are connected and what you do affects the whole world. When you do well, it spreads out. It is for the whole of humanity. Ubuntu is embodied in the Zulu saying, Umuntu, Unkumuntu, Ngaman Abantu, which means a person is a person by and because of other people. So I'm going to invite you all to stand, and the choir will start us off singing this, but I invite you to join the singing. Let's practice these 4 words. Just say after me, umuntu, ungumuntu, nagabanye, abantu. Please stand as you are able and join us. It'll indicate on the screens when to join us singing.
taking up the acknowledgement of this land as you challenged us, Chief Williams. St. Paul's has been on this journey of reconciliation and understanding what it means to be on this territory in a good way. And part of that journey has been to create this gallery for the Call 83 process. And the leadership team believed that it was important that we give a name to this gallery that represented our connection to the land. And so we invited a process over this last year to rename the gallery. And so I began by asking Elder Lorraine McCrae about what a process should be, and she advised that we should talk to the Gojijing Roundtable, and Aaron Dixon helped facilitate that, and so we began to have input from different members of the Roundtable on the naming process, and we generated a variety of different names. And Mary Lou, in conversation then with Jeff Monague, offered the suggestion that we call it Omega Yellowhead. Chief Yellowhead was named in that way from the British agent that worked with Chief Yellowhead. Was his name given to him by the British agent, and so we took up that suggestion. In speaking with Jeff many times and different folks, we acknowledge that Yellowhead, even though he became known as that, his actual name was Meskwaki. My nervousness doesn't help with my pronunciation of the Ojibwe name. So Chief Meskwaki, whose big house was probably literally here where St. James was and St. Paul's. This was part of where this community resided up on the hill here. And so taking Jeff's suggestion back to Elder Lorraine, she suggested that we call it Omega Meskwaki Gallery in representation of Meskwaki, which also got translated as Muskoka, as the area here, but Chief Meskwaki was an Omega represents chief negotiator, as I understand it. And so he was a powerful figure in dealing with the settlers and in establishing relations and working in a very complex way to deal with the settler community. So we want to acknowledge in our reconciliation journey the significance of the land on which we are, and acknowledge this gallery in the name of Chief Meskwaki and Omega Meskwaki Gallery. And so I wanted to invite Lorraine to accept this in appreciation, and Joe Watt has done a beautiful job in creating a gallery sign for us. So, Lorraine.
Miigwech. I want to say miigwech to our roundtable and to Chief Jeff Monague for the suggestion of Muskoka, and to let you know that I've taken that suggestion to our chief, Ted Williams, and our council, and they agreed, and it's in our council minutes that it was agreed upon by our community to have Ogima Meskwaki Gallery for this artwork. And what an honor it is. And to congratulate all the artists. What an honor it is to see all their artwork here today. And this will be the name of the gallery. And to thank St. Paul's for hosting this. You know, the first apology that I ever heard was back in the mid-'80s, and it came from the United Church of Canada to our people. After that, I remember the apology coming from the Presbyterian Church. I was there when we accepted that apology in our church in Rama. And from there, I remember the apology that came from Prime Minister Stephen Harper. That day, as he was giving it, I watched it on TV from the Soldiers Memorial Hospital. I was visiting Elder Merle Assanspeedy that day. And as I walked into the room, he was starting to give that apology. I'm so grateful I was with her that day. She was one of many of our mentors who attended residential school for so many, many years from a young child. And another apology I heard was from the Children's Aid Society a few years ago at Geneva Park. That was given. And then more recently, we saw on television Pope Francis giving an apology for some of those that harmed. It didn't come directly from the church itself, but it came as an apology from those who did harm to our children in those schools. And yesterday, our community trained Children's Aid Board of Directors from Muskoka and from Durham Region. Yesterday, we spent the day giving them training yesterday. So we're building a lot of hope. We're building relationships, good ones. And we see that here today through the healing of the artwork that is happening. And I feel truly, truly grateful. Many of us in our community come from the Yellowhead family. My grandfather, Stanley Schilling, his mother was Rachel Yellowhead, and I'm happy to say her name here today, as I remember her as a young child, as a beautiful Anishinaabe who was an artist in her own right. She made ash baskets, and many of our people did the quill work as an amazing art that takes a lot of patience. And many of our young people are picking up the quill work now, even some of our young men in our community. So art is really healing us in so many ways. And I just want to say Chimigwach for this. Miskwaki. Miskwa is red in our Ojibwe language, and Ke is the earth. Ke is the land, our precious lands, the red earth. And that was the name of Chief Yellowhead, was the red earth. So we're so very grateful today. Thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Ted Reeves for coming to our community with tobacco. He brought me tobacco. He came in person. He telephoned to see where my office was. He found his way. That takes courage, it takes work, it takes thoughtfulness. And I was very grateful that day when you came and we had a beautiful conversation. And it means so much more bringing tobacco in person, and that is our teachings. And we know for sure when we accept that tobacco that we are to be here. I was to be here today. I have no doubt about that. And it was because you came with that tobacco and you explained things to me fully as to what would take place and so on. I appreciate that. And that day, we had a beautiful conversation. I had just received an email from Greg McGregor from Georgian College, and he had put on the email truth and reconciliation. Dabwawin, minwa nas kudadawin. And Greg explained in the email that nas kudadawin came from our elder, Ernestine Baldwin. And you know, we've been looking for names for reconciliation in Ojibwe. Through the last few years, I've never really understood what reconciliation meant to me personally. And I couldn't find any Ojibwe words that were really so very meaningful to me either. But when I read Naskodadawin, right away, I had a picture in my mind, and I was explaining that picture to Ted that day he visited. And you know, it's little children. When they start to come to approach you. And one of my thoughts was when I visited Nepal with my friend Jan Sanders several years ago, we were I was sitting by myself on this rock ledge in Nepal. Jen was paddling around in the boat. She was riding with one of the locals, taking a ride out, but I chose just to sit and reflect that day. And I was there all alone, and off into the distance, I saw this little girl coming, way out of the bush. She started coming, and I just sat so quietly. I didn't move, and I watched her come closer and closer and closer. And then I saw her from the side of my eye over here. I didn't move my head. I just looked with my eyes, and there she was, sitting on the same rock ledge I was sitting on. And she came closer and closer and closer. And I wondered, she's coming right to me. And I didn't let her know that I was watching or seeing her. And I never moved. And she came right up to me, so close, and she stroked my arm. And that's what that word meant. Came to me, Naskodadawin. It's us coming closer, approaching. You have to approach first, like Ted did that day. So it's coming to approach, and then to get closer and closer together in building that relationship in such a kind and caring, gentle, slow and patient way. And that's what our roundtable has been too, with Gwen Boniface, Senator, making that happen for us. So I'm so grateful for many, many, many things that I've come to witness and see with our town of Orillia, with the city here, with all the good things that happened in this center, this church as well. I was married here also many years ago. And so I have many, many good memories. And it feels so good here today. We have a wonderful, kind and caring energy. The choir was so beautiful. I just sat there and just listened and had like the best seat in the house to hear you and see you. And thank you so much. Chimigwach kinawaya. Ksagi gom da shopchi. You're all deeply loved. Chimigwach.
So we're going to sing this final piece to conclude this part of this celebration, part of the day, and after this there'll be some closing words, and then we'll move down to have the feast downstairs. So as you see, this is it was given to Brook Medicine Eagle by Leonard Eagle Cloud Howell. There's a picture you can see on the screen of Brook Medicine Eagle. So I invite you to stand as you are able and join us in the singing of this. Hey Ya Nana.
Hey,
going to invite Elder John Rice to close us, but on the practical note for all of us and for those who are participating digitally, we will go and feast, and we invite all of you to have some sustenance, and we will reconvene in here at 1 p.m. to unveil the art. John?
Reconciliation, we're going to have many stories. Okay? We already have some. We heard the chief talking, the elders talking. Reconciliation has been happening. These beautiful things that we're doing. To remind ourselves, it's not a new thing. There have been good-hearted people in this whole journey. Dr. Bryce, 1920, when he sent a report, he was a good-hearted man. So we got to remember these things. It's not a new thing that we're going to come together as good people. I remember in 2004, I came down from up north. I came from way up north, up around Georgian Bay. My first real job was at the mental health center in Pentecost. I'd never had a job where there was, I belonged to a union. I had a pension plan I was paying into. It was the first real job. Anyways, when I started there, they were having this banquet. So I was invited to come and open the banquet with some words, And this beautiful woman there, she's a good friend now, she's retired, but she came to invite me to do the opening prayer for that banquet. And she said to me, I know you people can talk for a long time. She said, so could you make it short? I said, yeah, I could make it as short as bless this meat, let's eat. And then she said, no, not that short. I said, Miigwech for this day, this gathering, and this beautiful artwork, and the artists that are here, and the people who put this all together. Gojijing, and the reconciliation group that gathers to put this all together. So we're going to put our minds together, and we're going to go downstairs and have a feast, and we're going to share in the food. We're going to make a spirit dish with all the food to honor everything, the artwork and the spirit of the artists, the group people together, and for sure our ancestors, and everything else at this time that has a spirit. We're going to make a little dish for that first before we eat. The only thing we say, though, is that when you eat, we have to eat all the food. All has to be eaten. In a feast like this, we say there can't be any leftovers. So eat as much as you can. I know some of you might go home and watch football after, so you can lay on the couch with a full stomach. So with that, I want to say Miigwech for everything that we asked to come here today. The four directions, our ancestors, the people that are here. Say Miigwech for that. And Ojibwe word, repeat after me. Wis, na, da. Wis na da, let's eat. Miigwech.